rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
How are you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. God, yes.
Welcome, everybody, to the board meeting here, April 11th. We always start this out with the recognizing the Employee of the Month. This month it's Steve Moran. He's a groundskeeper in the Parks Department. He was hired December 8th in 2006. And Steve I've known a long time, and his supervisor wrote about him. He's an outstanding support and teamwork within their department. He's been a big positive influence on everyone. His enthusiasm and daily eagerness is simple, second to none. But as of late, the energy he's given to the historical science has been amazing, to say the least. He's turned in our own Picasso. Not bad for a groundskeeper, one. So, Steve, thanks for the job. We have, initial recognition for him, for the Employee of the Month, and thanks for the work that you're doing. So we have, nobody had signed up for public comment. So with that being said, does anybody from the public like to make comment? Okay, so we're going to go to no board presentations. The public hearing on the 2014 proposed budget.
Motion to open the hearing, please.
I'll make a motion to open up 2014 proposed budget hearing.
Second.
Second.
In favor? Okay, we have drafts of the budget here. I just want to go on record to thank all the department heads that they really put their heart and soul into this. They take it very seriously. We do take a zero-based budget approach where we start. We don't look at last year's. We look, start afresh. I'm going to direct you to the second to last page, which is always the first question that comes up as far as the tax cap calculation is concerned. The way this works is we use last year's levy of $18,891,237. The state of New York assigns a tax-based growth factor to us, which is basically the brick and mortar that was added to the village, and we were at 1.0336 as a factor, which is 3.36%. Out of all the villages in New York, we were the highest growth factor of those villages. After applying that factor to the levy, which brings you to 19,525,983, then you apply the 2% regulated factor to that, and then there's a pension adjustment for both the ERS and the police and fire. This year, because the ERS rates were pretty steady, there was no exception for that, but there was for police and fire, which allowed us to add $44,000 to a levy, bring us to $19,960,885, a 5.66% allowable increase. As far as the departments are concerned, there's really no hidden surprises in any of this. Of course, we're dealing again with the mandates that we struggle with every year, which are the things, unfortunately, we cannot control. On your last sheet that you have there, is basically a variance analysis. And you'll see in the middle column there that the increases we're dealing with, state retirement is $199,000, police retirement $104,000. We had a lot of certiorari claims coming through in the next year, which Bill McCoy's been working on, but that's a substantial number, so there's an increase in the budget of $241,000 for that. Workman's comp has gone up $83,000. Medical insurance $252,000. We did put in a $100,000 increase to the capital reserve because our reserves are getting low, and we are facing quite a bit of equipment coming through. And as we had discussed a couple of months ago, we were talking about possibly floating a bond for the Agawam Memorial and to complete the second floor and third floor here. So I did budget for that, so there's an increase in debt service of $124,000. The only decrease in the expenditures is in the trustees special projects, because last year we had two grants going on, the Safe Routes to School and the Local Safe Streets traffic calming grant. This year, we only have one grant going on, so there's a decrease in expenditures there of $574,000. Other than that, on the revenue side, going to the second page of the file there, revenues are pretty much, we did well last year on the beaches, which we ratcheted that up here somewhat. Board is slipping a little bit, so I had to lower that. Outside fire prevention from the fire department, that is slightly up to the new contract. And that pretty much sums up where we're at. Again, if you go through by department, there's really not a heck of large fluctuations, except for the items that I mentioned, which are what we have to wrestle with. Any questions on that?
I got a question. The spreadsheet that you had done, did everybody get a copy of that spreadsheet?
The board, I have not.
Board, yeah, the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. The 12-year?
The 12-year
Right.
Spreadsheet. Cost. You want to just
Sure,
about
that's basically a mandate analysis. What I did going back to the year 2000, I addressed three factors in here: the state retirement, the police retirement, and medical expenses. And back in 2000, those expenditures of $870,000 in total was 8.56% of the budget. This year, in 2014, we're looking at those same three factors and adding in the grant expenditures of only $498. We're spending $5.8 million, and that's representing 60% of the 2000 budget.
60%?
So 567%.
not 60% of our budget.
No, it's in relation to the
Yeah,
2000 budget,
I
right.
got you.
Right.
Okay.
But it's going, the mandate increase was over the 14, 567%
Right.
increase, where the village budget actually only increased by, over the 12 years, it was 165%.
Right.
Percent increase over that areas. Let's see, the state retirement in 2000 was $50,000. Today, in 2014, it'd be $1,105,000. The police retirement was $100,000, and in 2014, it'll be $1,144,000. And then medical, which was at $720,000. In 2014 will be $3,062,000. So, and then the grant money that we have, which is next year will be about $500,000, totaling $5.8 million.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
Expensive.
yeah. The number of employees in 2000 compared to roughly about the same number, I think. Actually, I was just thinking maybe that we should look at that. We're full-time
Yeah.
employees that fall under this, do a comparison between police department and then also the other village
Yeah, I only have the
employees.
analysis going back about 7 years, but I can go
Yeah.
back. One of the factors also on the medical, as we go through this, is as people retire, we're still carrying these retirees, so that, it's not just the rate increase, it's the number of people on the plan has
Right.
increased also over the years.
Okay.
Big number.
Do we have that number too? Could we, I don't know if
that's
you have
easily-
the ability to get that number.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
A comparison between 2000 and 2014. Anything else we want to look at? You guys have any comments about your own department budgets?
Work with them. Everything was, from what was asked for, reduced significantly, so.
No, it's, any comments?
No,
No.
these are the more astounding numbers.
And if you look on, just on the summary sheet on the column to the right by departments, you'll see the departments are really,
Yeah.
2%, 3% increases straight through, and most of that's, contractual salaries as it is anyway.
Right.
Building inspector's up 8% because we budgeted for an additional person, which we've been without for a good 18 months, which is just not working. We need, as we discussed, we do need help over there.
Yeah.
Did we assume no more hurricanes, I hope?
That's my landscape there at my house now, yeah, I hope so.
What a word.
Wow. Okay.
I'll just, you know, the one, the one increase with the ambulance, but that was just because of some updating of equipment going through the,
Right.
that's the only one that jumps off the page. Otherwise, they're all pretty,
Yeah, well,
I think the ambulance too, aren't they planning for the new narcotics?
correct. Yeah, so I mean, so that's an increase of all like the
Right.
life-saving stuff that just is more or less of a one-shot, one-time
Right.
right.
hit.
Right. Any other comments? Michael, you got any, your departments?
No, but I think we've got to take a close look because the departments didn't increase at all really themselves.
Correct.
And with this increasing, the difficulty is that the actual infrastructure of the village becomes more and more hard to keep up, whether you have computer systems or integrated systems or, doing the second floor renovation here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So where you go with this, I'm not quite sure. It seems to be the trend in communities today, but it certainly has to be addressed.
I mean, the only, light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully it's not a train, is the fact that they're projecting that these increases will temper on starting next year. Because now, the retirement system's behind the whole market. So what happened in 2008 is we felt the effects of the last couple of years. And now that the market's doing better and the retirement system catching up to that, they're saying that these rate increases will start to temper down.
Will they actually go backwards or they'll just level off instead of increasing?
No, they'll reduce. I mean, we're looking at 21%, 22% increases in the rates, where they're forecasting high teens for subsequent years.
I was looking at the healthcare costs. In 2010, our healthcare cost was $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
2014, it's $3,062,000. And that's all state healthcare plan. And maybe that's where we have to go.
Right.
Is to step out and start looking at alternatives to this. I mean, at $3 million right here, is the potential of doing a self-funded, and we've looked at that
Sure.
before in the past, and maybe that's with some kind of capitation insurance
Mm-hmm.
for catastrophic events for people.
Right.
But it makes you wonder, like, if that we should be exploring that with a couple of brokers around.
Right.
I'm sure Kevin Luss, if we reach out to Kevin Luss,
Mhm.
he could probably help us work on that stuff. It's right here in the village. So I think that's maybe an area that we could probably get into an attack on.
I mean, just since I've walked in the door, these three numbers have more than doubled,
Yeah.
just since I've gotten here. It's 08.
Scary.
Yeah. And then
Tripled on some.
Yeah. So
Well, even if you reduce the growth, it's still going to be big
It's a
numbers.
chunk of change.
yeah.
What were you saying about the 18% in the pension? Did you say something that?
They're looking at the 2015, 2014 rates
Right.
to be not as ratcheted up. It's instead of like a 21 or 22% contribution that we're paying towards the salaries, it'll be more like a 19%.
Oh,
or-
okay.
So it'll increase, but
I
the
understand
increase
what
will
you're
be
saying.
smaller.
Thinking,
Oh, sure, yeah.
It
it's
won't be a
not-
reduction.
it's
We're not gonna
no.
see a reduction.
Not
going
gonna be a
the other way.
reduction, but it's not gonna be they're forecasting again, but not the catastrophic climb that we've been seeing over the
Well,
last 2-3
the
years.
damage is already done. I mean,
Oh, sure.
This is a number that was set with already.
Okay. Any other comments in reference to your departments or other departments around here? I mean, Steve, you've done a great job putting this
Well,
together.
it's these.
Everybody's worked
Everybody
hard
worked
on
hard,
this.
aren't they, really?
Yeah. But your leadership on this is greatly appreciated. That being said, it's a public hearing. Anyone from the public would like to make comment in reference to the budget? I knew you were going to come on up here, Lois. Wouldn't be budget time. Come on up.
Do I have to sign in or?
No, just come on up here and identify yourself for the record. And you see, I mean, we're not closing the public hearing tonight, so it gives you an opportunity to review the budget and then come back at the next meeting if you want to. But go ahead and.
Question I have is the pension plan from New York State, what is their estimated return that they're using now for their calculations?
I believe it's around 7%. Is what they're looking, between 7 and 8.
Can I reflect you to the Wall Street Journal article yesterday saying that the internal rate of return of most pension plans are half of that 7%?
Mhm.
And this is one of the biggest fraud that's being perpetrated on the public because they're estimating that the pension plans based over the years will be paying out, and it's not there.
Right.
So that any of these numbers that we're working with now with respect to future pension costs are in serious question.
Mhm.
And is there anything that can be done about this with New York State's? California, CalPERS is going to have real serious
Well,
problems.
I can, give you some of the correspondence that I get from New
Right.
York State on that,
Right.
saying, touting the health of their plan, and these are the rates that we're looking at, and this is, we think, where we're going, and
Were these numbers created by Bernie Madoff from New York State?
I haven't spoken to him lately, but.
The other question I have is, the legislative and executive dropped by $500,000 in the budget, and it's a very interesting number, but
That is essentially, last year we had 2 grants in there, the Safe Routes to School grant.
Right.
And the local Safe Streets and Taxing, Traffic Calming grant. Both of those were in the $500,000 range.
right.
Those grants will be done in this current fiscal
Okay,
year.
so that they
And
came
the one
out.
that's in there now is the second phase of Safe Routes to School, which is gonna be another $500,000. But that's also in your revenue side, on page 3 in your federal funding.
Right. The other question is, this mandate analysis, you prepare that for the trustees? Is there any chance
I can get you a copy of that, sure. Mhm.
the dirty unwashed taxpayers?
Yep, absolutely.
can see a copy of
No
it?
problem.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Or if you want to, I'll give you my copy.
Yeah, mine's marked up, otherwise they give you mine.
Yeah, mine's not back. You can take mine if you want to.
Good, thank you.
J.D. Singh, a resident of the village. Wondered, are there any municipalities that are changing the game for new employees? Is there any way to have them under a slightly different medical plan, or a plan that down the road they could start contributing to as well, or take more control of their own retirement, or is that still not a possibility for a municipality?
It's not a possibility. The New York State Retirement Plan is the New York State Retirement Plan. We don't have any flexibility off that. And then the health insurance plan.
Right. Well,
Okay.
just on the,
Yeah.
don't mean to.
Go- no, it's-
As far as New York State are doing their own changes with that, where they're adding tier 5s and tier 6s to that, and they're requiring, right now, the employees that are presently with the village, they contribute 3% of the salary for the first 10 years of their employment. The new employees that are coming in will contribute that 3% for the rest of their career. Okay, so they're expanding it out, they're requiring more contributions to help their returns as far as, you know, their investment on their side. So we are mandated by those changes in the employment practices. What we have done in the last couple of years is that the new employees coming in, after we negotiate the contract, the union contracts, they contribute more towards their medical. Okay, but unfortunately, or fortunately, we really haven't hired that many people over the last 3 to 4 years since those changes were made.
I mean, to answer your question, Jay, going forward, like us statewide, all the municipalities, there will be a realized savings, but it won't be realized now, because they've created lower tiers. So every new people that come in all the different departments, again, are contributing more through state mandates, where we have people on the books under old negotiations and old state laws that contributed nothing. Teachers alike, you know, same thing. All the older you go back, they contributed less and less. But as they go through the years and retire and drop off, they are replaced with new people that are contributing more and more. But again, it took decades to get to this number to be this high. It's going to take decades to realize the savings, fortunately.
And do they feel, I mean, is the buzz that they're making the changes that will turn the corner, or are we simply slowing? I mean, it doesn't seem
I
like,
think we're just,
Until we
yeah,
get more contributions from employees, from the employee side, we're just slowing it
yeah,
down.
we're just slowing it down.
yeah.
And that's where the contract negotiations become important. You know, and we've tried on last couple of contract negotiations to get the police to you know, contribute to their health insurance. We have them, they do it right now, and
They do it for their eyeglasses
the
and hearing.
eyeglasses and the hearing
Right, and dental.
and dental, which but I think with Suffolk County, they were in the debate with the PVA in Suffolk County over contributions, and you know, it's every single department around, every municipality that has a police department now, that's one of the focused areas, is to break through that piece of negotiation to try to get police departments to contribute to their health insurance benefits.
And I think that probably was part of the state putting the cap on.
Yeah.
Is you know, although I know it's a pain for the municipal governance to have that artificial cap. You know, it hopefully sends a message that we do have to do something, because nobody will be able to afford the taxes.
Well, that's it, and I think what it forces us to do is step back and think about, you know, instead of hiring individuals, bringing on consultants, having more part-time employees for the summertime, you know, thinking different ways of, you know, who ends up going on our benefit plans, and you see some municipalities now that, you know, they don't have a parks department. What they do is they contract out with the landscaping companies to come in and manage everything. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we do in-house. And we do it, you know, from the, you know, the boxes with the flowers and the way the ball fields are maintained, and but it may force us to step back, and as people, you know, retire, not replace them, but, you know, bring in contractors to do some of the heavy lifting, and that way we're not carrying the health insurance, and we're not carrying the pension cost associated with that. But I think this forces us to, and all municipalities, to start thinking differently about the way we manage this 20-something% of our budget here. And
One other question on the financial side. It notes that the claims are significantly higher, or the estimate. What are those related to?
Certiorari claims.
Which are?
People claiming that the value of the houses are not worth what they used to be, and they're protesting the taxes.
the
And we've
biggest
had
issue
quite a few.
associated with that are the condominiums, because the condominiums were assessed at a rate, and then basically I think it's what, 60% of the,
Well, now it's on an income approach
all right, the income
versus a
approach.
value approach, which is totally ridiculous, but
Right.
it's killing us.
When
And
did that happen
they're
again?
assessed based upon,
It's New York State law.
yeah.
But when did that happen? I mean, is that?
I'd have to check with Bill. I
Yeah.
couldn't give you an effective date, but
But that's
these
where-
claims have been
yeah.
brewing for quite a while.
Yeah, and that's where the majority of all of these claims are sitting there. Are some of the larger, like Whitefield and some other places that have been sitting there for a while, that we've been negotiating with them, but we know that there are going to be claims. The good thing about that $300,000 here is that it's potentially it's just a one-time payout because we've made the adjustments moving forward with these properties, and we shouldn't have to worry about that long term once we've resolved these issues.
And one last point on
Sure.
that, tax base growth factor. How does the state come up with that number, or how do we come up with that
That's
number?
actually dictated by the state, and they go through all their property sales and changes in the assessed valuations and such, and they determine that this village has grown by that amount, and that's how they assign the factor.
So that's grown in terms of value, is that? So the value of the properties in the village
For new construction
for new
and
construction?
renovation work, right?
Oh, okay, so they're saying
Not a
that,
market value approach, it's new
So they-
additions to it, it's brick and mortar.
I see. So they're saying that there was more growth in terms of the build-out of our village than
Right.
other villages, and so we
Right.
get the 3.3%.
We get the 3.3%, and, it's supportable by what we're doing in building permit fees. And just driving around the village, you see what's going on.
Okay, good, thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else have any comments or questions in reference to the budget? Okay, we're going to keep this public hearing open and give people an opportunity to review the budget. Copy of the budget's available at Village Hall if you're interested in picking one up, and go from there.
All right, we've got 3 communications to the board, one from Donna Valley from Southampton Stationery. I am writing to you on behalf of the ongoing parking situation in the village of Southampton, specifically on Hampton Road. My family has owned and operated Southampton Stationery on 18 Hampton Road in Southampton for the past 43 years. Over the past 3 to 5 years, we've watched a once enjoyable village for people to come and shop turn into a nuisance for those same people, our customers. Not a day goes by that I am not told by at least a half a dozen customers how they have not been in our store for a while simply because there was not a parking spot to be had. This Mayor Eppley Board of Trustees is the month of March. What is the parking situation going to be like when the height of the busy season comes upon us? If my customers cannot park in the month of March, how are they going to be able to park from Memorial Day through Labor Day? I do believe that the number one solution in solving this parking situation on Hampton Road would be to enforce the already existing 2-hour parking rules. This would eliminate the problem of the business owners on Hampton Road and their employees who park their vehicles for 8 hours on a given day. The business owners and their employees who are currently abusing the 2-hour parking rules on Hampton Road would think twice about their parking habits if the existing parking laws were enforced. They would park in the parking lot behind our businesses on Hampton Road. Unfortunately, this brings up another very important parking situation in the village of Southampton, the parking behind the Hampton Road businesses. The business owners and their employees are going to argue a very valid point that there is no parking for them behind the businesses on Hampton Road. This is true because we have a situation where the Southampton Elementary School employees and the parents of the students are using the parking lot behind the businesses on Hampton Road on a daily basis, not to mention the loss of 20-plus parking spots. Again, what about enforcing the 2-hour parking rules in the parking lot behind the Hampton Road businesses? Mayor Eppley, we had once discussed the possibility of having a 15-minute parking spot in front of the Southampton station on Hampton Road. Although I still think that would be beneficial for my customers, I strongly believe that the issue at hand can be resolved by simply enforcing the laws we already have in place. Clearly, this parking situation on Hampton Road has reached epidemic proportion and needs to be addressed now. We are happy that the village board has allowed new stores to occupy what were once vacant buildings on Hampton Road, but this parking situation needs to be solved before any more new stores open for business.
Okay.
All right. Second one is from the CVO, the Commission on Veterans Patriotic Events, would like to request permission to hold a short parade on Monday, May 27th, as part of a Memorial Day service. The parade will begin at approximately 10:45 a.m. All are invited to attend. We would also like to request permission to hold our annual 4th of July parade on Thursday, July 4th at 10 a.m. Thank you for your consideration on these matters and hope to see you on May 27th.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Commission on Veterans Patriotic Events to hold the Memorial Day service and the 4th of July parade as per their letter dated April 2nd, 2013.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have a letter from Southampton Fire Department. On behalf of the chief, the Southampton Fire Department requests that the Coopers Beach parking lot be reserved for our annual muster. The dates we need are reserved are September 6th, 7th, and 8th, 2013. Sincerely, Dennis Chuppy, manager.
What you wanna do a motion there?
I'll make the motion for that.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions, resolved that the reading of the minutes for the work session of March 26, 2013 be dispensed with, that those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated April 11th, 2013 totaling $143,058.88, warrant 14 general fund, $12,000, warrant 12 trust fund, and $144,732, warrant 12 capital reserve fund, and the village payrolls for the period from March 22nd, 2013 to April 4th, 2013 be ordered and approved. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, discussion, rather. Skipping down here.
You almost got out of
There you
it,
go.
Steve.
That's right. Item 1, Braun, the spring newsletter, $4,342.11. Bushing Enterprises, active shooter training for the police department, $3,500. CSE Employee Benefit Fund, insurance premium for April, $21,470.32. Page 3, Cash Productions, March videotaping, $1,496.65. Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, the first quarter MTA tax, $7,678.13. Corzini Asphalt, draining and asphalt, $10,900. Page 4, William Culver, Fire Department volunteer medical reimbursement, $1,000. Dell Marketing, computer for the Highway Department, $1,057.17. Page 5, Glencoe Supply, science supplies for the Highway Department, $3,135.50. Hammer Medical, ambulance supplies, $2,691.91. Page 6, Herrick Hardware, falling onto page 7, $1,328.91. Hardware supplies for March. High-Tech Fire and Safety at Chief's Coat, $1,047.82. Hildress replacement benches, flowing onto page 8, $1,780. Johnson Electrical Construction, traffic light maintenance for March, $1,275. Page 9, LIPA Fire Department bill, $3,876.99. Page 10, Messiano Consulting, grant writing for March, $1,125. Morgan Auto Supply, parts for March, $1,558.63. Page 11, National Grid Fire Department bill, $1,594.45. And Nextel Communications cell phone for March, $1,939.29. Norsec and Sons carting for the Highway Department, $4,519.80. Page 12, New York State Unemployment Insurance, first quarter 2013, $1,518. Page 13, Pitney Bowes mail, $2,400 for the fall. Page 14, Rapid Recovery, Marsh Towing, $1,450. And RCF Lewis, fuel oil for the garage in the Southampton Center, $1,317.62. Bottom of page, Ronco Cleaning Supplies, $2,182.04. Page 15, Sadie Levine, CPAs, the Justice Court audit, $4,250. Page 16, two payments to Sprague, one for 2,500 gallons of diesel in the amount of $8,478.14, and 3,000 gallons of gas for $9,091.83. Page 17, Verizon PD phone bill, $1,273. Going on to the trust warrant. We have two payments to Professional Estate Care, Crepe Myrtles for $9,600, and replacement use at the Southampton Center for $2,400. The last warrant is a capital reserve warrant, and you have a payment of $144,732 for the dump truck that was authorized back in the fall of 2012.
Can I just one thing, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Page 3 of 20, the MTA tax, I thought that was, did they work on reducing that or eliminating it or work on something?
That was actually declared illegal by a court in Nassau, but we have to continue to pay it because the MTA has appealed that decision.
Okay.
So legally, we had to file a protest and a claim notice that if they lose the appeal, we will get this money back.
Okay, so it's
So
business.
we are registered with the state
Okay.
to get this money back, but we need, at this point, to continue to
Long
pay
until
it.
it's due. Okay.
Right.
Good, thank you.
It's almost $31,000
Yeah.
a year.
It's close to
Yeah.
35. It's,
Wow.
What do we
insane.
get for that?
We get nothing.
Look at the MTA.
We get a bridge to hang a banner on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did they really? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers to eliminate overages for the period March 26th through April 11th, 2013. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
First transfer is $2,500 into orders from Trustees Special Project. Second one is $620 for clerk equipment, $1,000 to clerk contractual coming from part-time personnel. Second one is $2,000 into garage supplies coming from garage contractual. Fourth one is $18,500 into insurance, $60 into employment benefits state retirement, with $12,060 coming from unemployment and $6,500 from street contractual. Next one is $233 into MTA tax coming from municipal association. Next one is $10,000 to police seasonal, $3,000 into police miscellaneous coming from $10,000 from police holiday vacation, and $3,000 from police contractual. And we have one for traffic control contractual, $2,500 coming from buildings contractual, and the last one is $1,000 to parks miscellaneous coming from parks supplies. Further discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
When you do employee benefit for the insurance,
Mhm.
unemployment,
Right.
how do you do that? I mean, I'm just kind of curious.
We
because
are,
if
we are on a self-pay and on the insurance, and we've actually are coming in much lower this year.
Oh.
Okay, so what I'm doing is after this payment that I mentioned to you in the warrant, that's the last payment for this year.
Oh, okay.
So the balance, which is $12,060, is left in the, on the line item. I can pull that,
Oh, okay.
allocate it where needed. We're coming in substantially low, which is good. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the release of the performance bond for Dialex Realty, 16 Hampton Road, as recommended by Jonathan Foster, Building Inspector. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
abstain.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve that Persia Petaway be rehired as a seasonal clerk in the tax receiver's office for the period from June 3rd, 2013 through July 12th, 2013 at an hourly rate of $15 to assist Danielle Burns in preparing and distributing the annual tax bills. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And it's Portia, not
Portia.
Portia.
I'm surprised Rich didn't say anything. Gotta give it a
He
shot.
only gets you on the Polish names.
I let you go on that one.
There you go. Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of Joseph Prokop, Esquire, 175 Route 25A, East Setauket, New York, 11733, to represent the village at the village general election on Friday, June 21st, 2013, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Levitas Center, Pond Lane, Southampton, at a rate of $200 an hour. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion. I just want to note for the record that he's not going to be there from 9 to 9. It's just on an availability, as-needed basis, and last year we didn't call him in at all, even though we did the resolution to be from 12 to 9.
Does he get paid?
No,
In
not
any
unless,
way?
not unless he comes in.
Oh,
Okay, it's a retainer, just in case
Yes.
we need him, but
Mhm.
we have to state the hours that he could possibly be there. All in favor?
all right.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the appointment of Frank Scott Rayner as a probationary member of the Southampton Hose Company, number 1, effective April 1st, 2013. Got a motion?
Make that motion?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Last one is resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the mayor's appointment of Esther Pastor to the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for a term ending June 30th, 2014. Got a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second?
The
Discussion?
comments is that, you know, she's replacing her husband, Arnie,
Yeah.
when he passed away, and she asked if she could do that, so to finish out his term.
Very nice.
Yes, she does. She lives on Cooper's Farm Road.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Discussion items, the local law design guides, village business district.
Yeah, we had, we closed the public hearing at the last meeting,
Yes, we closed the public hearing.
and so we had to, actually need to vote on that, so. So,
Time for any discussion by board members, and then.
yeah, well, I just wanted to, I mean, there were a couple of things that were brought up, and, in reference to this, and one of that was about the hotel motel. And, based on, you know, speaking with Paul Travis and, C-Mac Sammy, you know, what they wanted us to do was move forward and with this local law and put it into place because of all the work that we've done around that. And then Rick had suggested that, we could, if we do that, we can go back and, because me personally, I'm not opposed to doing that as a special exception for the hotel motel, because I think that's going to be.
Special permit, you mean.
Sorry, special permit. It in there for a special exception, for a special permit for the hotel motel, because it's, if that's a one-time thing, and I think it's really important that the village board would probably get involved with a project like that, and that's why I'm in favor of doing that. But we talked about moving forward and voting on this tonight, and then going back and making a modification from a special exception to a special permit component for that hotel motel.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion, because if we change it now, before we take a vote on the whole package, that means we'd have to first make the revisions to restructure it to be a special permit, going to the Board of Trustees rather than a special exception going to the zoning board. And I would hesitate to make that kind of a change without a public hearing on the revisions, et cetera. I wouldn't want to risk jeopardizing the whole package over that kind of a change. So if we go ahead and adopt the package that the Planning Commission has recommended, we can then promptly take another step and change it from special exception to special permit without jeopardizing the rest of the package and without delaying the rest of the package.
Could you explain how it would jeopardize the rest of the law, what you just said?
If we made that change and adopted that change without having further public hearing,
People could come back.
somebody could challenge, the local law. There's a lot of items in the local law, and somebody could challenge the local law on the ground that we made a revision without having a further public hearing on that revision. That's what I mean by jeopardizing.
And how many public hearings on that kind of a revision would be required, do you think, if you changed the law per se?
One public hearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But before we get to the public hearing, we would have to make the revisions.
Yeah, make the revision to
It's
the
not,
law. Yeah.
it's not as simple as it sounds. It's not changing SE to SP. It's doing all the mechanical stuff to go with it. So we have to restructure that part of it. You could easily be talking at least 2 months delay before we could vote on anything if that were held as if that were done that way, rather than adopting the local law and then making this one change.
And then it is going from SE to SP, the simple way afterwards.
Right.
Right.
And we'd be
Simpler
having
to
a public
go-
hearing on it.
It's simpler to turn around and do this than it is to hold up the whole thing.
Yes.
And then it's just a matter at the next meeting,
At the next meeting, we can introduce
introduce the public,
local law. I
the
can
local
prepare
law.
the
Yeah.
revisions, and we can introduce a local law at the next meeting and schedule it for a public hearing. Let's see, where are we now? We're in April, so we could,
It'd be the first meeting in May.
and it might not, I don't think, with the timing of it, I don't think we'd make the first meeting in May. It would probably have to be the second meeting in May.
And so some people are.
So could you,
Hey, come on up here.
Give your name and address, please? Susan Stevenson, I live in the village on Toilsome Lane. The window of opportunity, though, is then left, is it not, between the time you enact the law that you want to enact and then the revision, for someone to apply.
They're not gonna meet septic requirements.
I don't know.
They're
I
not gonna
just-
meet septic requirements.
mean, sort
Probability
of-
and possibility,
They're
too.
not gonna meet septic. They're not gonna meet septic. They gotta go through the Department of Health, they have to do all of that stuff.
But if,
That's
If-
really, that's
We're
the
talking a month and
bottom
a
line.
half here, and in order to meet septic, it's years, and
yeah,
then more than
but
likely
can't
they're
they
gonna be
say, when we
denied.
first came before, whatever, the board?
No,
No?
That way.
no.
But I have great misgivings about the boards that are appointed, the ZBA, and some of these decisions lately have really unsettled me in
Well-
terms of what could go on here and what has gone on. And this is, I don't know what could happen. I'm not a real estate developer, and I don't want to become one or think about how I could be, use laws to make a grandiose scheme that probably wasn't thought about before. But I worry that could be something that could happen here.
So do we.
That's
I
why we
worry
went
about
through
it
the
on a
process.
daily basis.
But that's why we went through this process, Susan.
I
so
understand that, but
that we have laws in place to protect
But
against it.
motels and hotels weren't in the previous law, were they? Zoning?
They've been in this package for 4 years.
Right, but they weren't before that. What stands now? Is there hotel and motel?
Not in the village business district.
Under
Right.
village business.
Okay, thank
It is in
you.
the highway business district.
Bill?
I just, Rick, you might just enunciate the concern that I expressed at the last meeting that a timeshare could spring up in the village, and
That
I
was
just
the other
particularly
piece.
have a thing about them because I think of them as profiteers who do their thing and then walk away, and you have to live with it. But you allayed my fears,
concerns
and you
that
can explain it to.
Trustee Hattrick had was the type of hotel that is commonly referred to as time-sharing hotel, or sometimes they're referred to as a resort hotel, et cetera, et cetera. Our zoning code doesn't recognize that kind of a hotel or a motel. The resort motels typically would have, in addition to, sleeping facilities, it would be kitchen, cooking facilities, et cetera, and that's what you associate with, at least that's what I associate with the time-sharing concept that you see in some resorts. We don't allow that type of hotel under our zoning code. Our zoning code only allows what's called a transient hotel, and we have a definition of a transient hotel, and part of that definition is no cooking facility shall be available. So you would not be able to, under this type of use, you would not be able to have cooking facilities. So it could not be a resort motel or hotel.
Thanks, Rick.
That's good.
Thanks, Rick.
Any other comments or concerns from the board? So
You wanna do it?
I would like to take action tonight.
Okay. As you're aware, we don't need to do a secret resolution because that was done as part of the master plan update and the adoption of that. That addressed not only the master plan update, but it also addressed the zoning amendments. So we can just proceed with the enactment resolution. Resolved that the proposed local law entitled "A Local Law Amending Chapter 116 Zoning of the Village Code with respect to regulations in the Village Business District" is hereby enacted as local law number 2 of 2013.
Roll
Make
call.
that motion.
So we need roll call vote. Trustee Az?
Aye.
Trustee Irving?
Aye.
Mayor Epley?
Aye.
Trustee McCann?
Aye.
Trustee Hattrick?
Aye.
So moved.
And
Okay.
shall I follow up
Yes,
then and
at the
prepare
next-
the other change? Okay.
And in the, I was listening to you talk about the transient piece of with no cooking facilities when it comes to the timeshares and stuff. But I think that there are motels around that do timeshares and they don't have the cooking facilities in there. And I don't know if maybe as we address this hotel motel piece, just to put a squash on something like that, could we identify it?
Well, that's,
Could you say something that the individual units
it's
couldn't be sold?
It's easier said than done
Okay.
because the courts have held, it's like condominiums, cooperatives, that kind of a thing. The courts have held that that's a form of ownership rather than a use, and that municipalities don't have the power to distinguish between condominiums and apartments, et cetera, based on the form of ownership. It comes down to the use. So if it's operated as a hotel, whether the transients who come to occupy, a unit at a particular time, whether they're doing it because they bought a timeshare that gives them a week every year, or whether they just come and rent the hotel rooms, that's not a use. That's a type of form of ownership that we don't, municipalities don't have the power to regulate through zoning. During the process of the application, I mean, it's going to have to operate as a transient hotel.
Okay.
That means that it can't be operated, as a residential use.
Right. Okay.
So during the process of an application, you can find out what's going on in a particular case and impose conditions as part of any use approval. It would not be allowed to. The use could not be changed, but you can't control the form of ownership.
Well, that's a question I have then. Let's say in any of the hotels that we may have now in the village, let's just say that they decided they wanted to sell 2 rooms, 2 adjoining rooms, and could they sell that as a unit because it would no longer be classified as a transient hotel?
It would have to be, okay, let me see if I can explain this. Whether one corporation owns all the units and leases out the hotel units, or whether, if there's 20 units, whether 20 different people own them and lease them out. That's what I mean by form of ownership. It doesn't mean that Joe Blow could buy a unit and occupy it, on a regular basis.
Right.
It has to be transient.
Right.
So whether Joe Blow owns it or some corporation owns it, the use has to do with who occupies it, and do they occupy it on a transient basis, like a hotel, or do they occupy it on a long-term basis, like a residence?
Okay.
And it would not be a hotel if it were occupied on a long-term basis.
But what if 20 people got together and bought something like that? Okay, and then those 20 people decided that they would lease it out on a weekly basis to the same person every year, which is essentially like a timeshare. Could they do that?
Well, I think there's rules in reference to
Well, that's what I want to know.
turnover of the room and the
Okay.
individuals, because I know it's one of the issues that the town's having with some of the motels around.
Can I just ask
That's basically what I call an enforcement issue, not
Right.
a use issue.
Should come to the mic.
Yeah, come on up,
please.
Deborah.
Give your name and
Most
Deborah Bates, Walnut Street. I just was curious, now I'm further confused by what you explained, I'm sorry. If someone had built a residential
Sorry.
condominium unit in the village business district, could they lease those condos out as timeshares? A residential use, a newly created, I don't mean to muddy the waters, I'm just now curious as to what your
I
explanation.
think we're.
I'm not quite sure I understand
I think
your
we're
question.
mixing apples and oranges here. 'Cause
I
you're-
know
you're
I am,
talk-
but you're allowing,
No, we're not,
you're allowing residential uses in the,
No.
someone could build a residential apartment use.
You mean above a store or?
Or a whole, like in one of the I'm just saying, say one of the mercantile buildings, 3 stories, and it could be a condominium
Right.
of residential uses that people own privately. Could they then lease them as timeshares?
okay,
I'm
you're
just-
gonna have to come up with what you mean by timeshare then. When I think of a timeshare, to me, it
Well,
means, it's like you go to a resort someplace for a week, but instead of paying X dollars a day or a weekly rate for the week you're staying there, you've already bought the right to stay there for a week every year for the rest of your life. that's, if that's what you mean by time sharing, that's a hotel use, that's not a residential use.
But supposing it's a condominium, not a hotel.
Yeah, but I think what you're.
I'm just saying,
But
I'm
I
just,
think
That's
what
a
you're,
residence.
you're
Condominium is a
describing,
residence.
you're describing is a, okay, it's a, you know, second and a third floor apartments. That's what, and what you're saying is that somebody's then going to, you know, rent out those
they
apartments.
buy
on
it,
a-
somebody buys it.
Somebody buys it,
Maybe
and then they
someone
rent,
buys the whole building down the line
and they rent them out, and then what they've done is they've illegally converted it to a hotel.
it's not still a condominium.
Well,
Well,
just saying a
because it's
condominium
not-
project.
Because, well,
yeah, no, they're good
yeah, I
questions.
understand what you're
Because
saying. Yeah.
the thing that I would like to know is, let's say they do turn it into a condominium and they're all sold separately. Let's say there's 10 units within a building.
Or they're owned by the same person, say.
Right, but if they sell a timeshare, and I don't know, Rick,
Yeah, you
they
have-
have to register that,
You
I'm
have to
sure.
get off,
Yeah,
The timeshare.
you have to get off the
they can
and I
rent
don't mean
it.
this in a
Certainly
bad
they can
sense.
rent
They
it.
The
can rent it.
simplistic
I mean,
term
that's why all the
condominium,
condos are getting
or
such
the
a
They could
simplistic
rent it to,
term-
they could
One
rent it
second,
to
please.
10
Please,
different
wait,
people.
please.
there
for
are
a month.
Wait,
there
one
are
sec- one
motels
second,
in this,
please.
you know, in the country where maybe it's 20 units in the motel and 20 different people each own a unit. But they do it as an investment, and it's operated as a motel. There's a manager who is in charge of weekly rates, and it's run just like a hotel or a motel. You wouldn't know it's a condominium form of ownership. So you cannot use, you're mixing and matching. What zoning regulates is usage, not who owns it.
Right, but 10 different people could own a month of it. It's the residential use. I don't
But I
mean,
think,
That's-
I
Then it
think here
becomes a
they,
transient, it becomes transient.
That's
then.
not a residential use.
That would be an
Yeah,
enforcement.
that's a transient use of a piece of property, and then that's an illegal use of
That's
the
an enforcement
property.
issue.
also,
And
I
that
think
becomes an
if
enforcement issue.
10 different
Right.
people owned the condo and they all decided they were gonna rent it, and they were gonna rent for a week at a time, and the same people were coming back, unless they purchased that as a timeshare, which I would imagine would have to be registered because they're making money off of that unit as a timeshare.
Yeah.
They're buying a chunk of it for a period of time. I'm sure that that has to be registered because they have to be guaranteed somehow. So I think all the condos
I mean, it
rent,
just-
Well, I
or
think
most
it's-
of them rent.
I think
Not,
what
well,
I think if
actually
you're
not
going to
all
think
be
what
of them.
doing
Rick was-
revisions now, maybe you should
Well, I
look
think,
at.
I think that what Rick says is, you can't control ownership, but you can control usage.
Well,
And if
once
it's-
you
if
own it,
it's-
can you control somebody being able to? I just think if you're going to be looking at some
Yeah,
of
but
these issues.
if somebody's renting out a room on a weekly basis, it becomes an enforcement issue.
Or
That's
if it's
really,
a whole
that's,
condo that many people
Because it
go to
becomes-
resort areas, I'm just saying other
Yeah.
areas, and I'm sure you're all aware of it,
Yeah.
and they rent condos as timeshares, and I don't know what the mechanics of it is, but I think
Well,
that
I
we
don't know.
could see that
Yeah.
here unless you specifically address that, and that was my point, because I
Yeah.
was
Well, I
getting
think we need to
confused
look
when you were
into it.
talking about timeshares in a hotel. Frequently, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily a hotel, you're going to a complex of some sort, and it seems to be all condos.
but if
and
you've got an
people-
example of a place that, we could go and pull up the zoning regulations
No,
associated
but I'll look
with
into
that.
it.
Yeah. Park City, Utah.
Thank you.
Okay, Park
I
City,
mean,
Utah.
I'm just saying,
But you
it's,
don't know what,
do they allow it or do they not
I
allow
don't
it?
know, but I know that I've stayed in places that were,
but you don't know how it's zoned.
no, but.
Is it, but is it zoned, business district? Is it zoned hotel motel? Is it zoned, you don't know what
It appeared to be.
the usage
like
charge.
Apartments, I don't know.
Well, Park City, I know pretty well, and Park City is a resort community, and
so
they're,
As we are.
well, we're a resort community, yes, but they are geared towards the ski industry, and yes, they do. But it's, I'm sure, special zoning, and
I don't know, but I think maybe if you're looking into such things, we ought to be maybe just, again, if you don't want that, then
Well, we don't want that.
So, yeah.
So,
So,
But,
that was my,
but
that was my
the
point.
question is, does our zoning law already protect it? Which we have to look at Park City, Utah, and do a comparison between what goes on, what allows that,
Well,
what in
some
their
places
zoning
want
allows
that
that.
and
to
other
happen.
places
Oh,
don't.
yeah, and we don't.
We don't, so let's
Well,
make
in an
sure.
area like Park City, Marriott's and big hotels, those are owned. Those apartments they rent them on a time basis, and they also are owned by individuals.
Well, closer to home, I don't know what the Bulova project in Sag Harbor, what they're exactly doing with that, but that might be
They're
something.
condos. I mean, that's what
So
that
are
is.
they, I mean, how hard would it be to see what, I'm just saying.
Well,
I think
I mean,
people who have condos do rent them, though. I mean, our real estate taxes are now based on
Yeah,
that.
but if they
So-
turn it over to some agent and then they're rented as on a timeshare basis, how
but
can
And
then
some
it
of them
becomes,
do that.
then it becomes a transient,
Yeah.
it's a transient
Yeah.
use for that
Well, I'm just
place.
saying, I'm not,
But it becomes what you're talking about, though, if they're renting on a week, that becomes, then that piece of, that apartment becomes a transient use. And then actually, that's in violation of the actual approved use if it's a residential,
if that's the, yeah,
if that's the case.
if that's the
yeah.
case. So, I'm just,
Just a thought, and
fair
Rick,
problem.
Rick,
I mean, what if,
It's-
I mean, we can do this all day long.
I know.
if, we're going to make some additional changes, we've approved the law, but we're going to make some qualifications in it, and could one of them be that anybody building a motel, hotel type of thing, cannot sell the individual unit, cannot sell the units individually?
You can't.
Can't.
Do
You
that.
can't regulate and control the form of ownership.
Okay,
Just the use of it.
but they can't have,
Just the use of
they
it.
can't have kitchen facilities and things that would normally be part of a
Absolutely could not have cooking facilities.
residential
Right.
use.
But I think the concern from what I'm hearing here is if in the future, if we have growth within the community where they may have apartments or create apartments above stores that they could sell off as condominiums, then the big question is, well, once you own that as a condominium, can you then turn around and sell shares in that so that you're rented throughout the entire season, even if it's a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time? And that's the question. Is that not the question?
That's part of it.
I'm sorry.
But then again, you're saying that's usage. It changes the use of it. Because now you're selling a share of something that is owned by someone and you really can't it's almost like cutting the pie smaller and smaller for that particular ownership. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You have
That's
more
it.
than, you have so many, yeah.
It'd be good to look into all of that and be sure you don't get what you don't want.
I think it's interesting how times have changed. I mean, when we look back at where the Irving used to be, and if you read the history of how people came here, families came and set aside a week or two to have their vacation, and every year they came out and they either spent it at the Irving or the hotel on Culver Hill or any of the hotels that were here, and now we don't have those facilities for people anymore. So it becomes more home ownership. So,
It's getting harder and harder to do, so.
right.
Maybe going back to the previous model.
Yeah. That's right.
Be nice.
Okay. All right, so, we'll focus and we'll come back to the next meeting, so. Okay, second discussion item, bicycle
Cycle
shows.
Shows US, it's a request for a bike ride through June 1st. Again, it's, a real issue of use of the roads. We do local donation. This is the one that has different sections of the length of the ride.
Okay. Again, we always say that the bicycle rides,
Right. It's more of a formality than anything else.
Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the bicycle shows US June 1st ride, which part of it goes to the village, dated 6/1/13.
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is, per our village code, section 86-12, we go through a resolution each year stating what the date is to start parking at Cooper's Beach, because Memorial Day keeps changing. And each year we have to change the signs, and they change the dates, and they tear the letters off. So what I'd like to just discuss is a possible amendment to the code that we change this provision to be from May 15th to September 15th rather than just Memorial Day, and avoid reprinting the signs every year. And, you know, John Brostowski has problems with people going up there, and we put May 28th or May 20th on, they tear the letters off. Face the sign. Anything to avoid the $40, so.
Yeah. Okay.
We go through this every 2 years. What the hell was it before? Didn't we have May 15th at one point, and then we changed it to Memorial
It's
Day?
for the other beaches. For some reason, Cooper's Beach is the only one that is affected by this provision.
It's back when we,
any reason not to do what you're saying?
no, I know.
Unless
It should be
Rick
right
has
before
more
the
history on
dates.
this than I do, but
Okay, my first question is, are you talking about 86-6 or
Oh,
86-12?
86-12.
Because 86-6 is Cooper's. 86-12 is Pride Lane, Little Plains Road, you know,
Okay.
the miscellaneous ones.
I don't have 86-6.
That's, but it was 86-12 that he was having it, because all those he was replacing the signs
Right.
on each one of those places,
Mhm.
which didn't make any sense
Yeah,
at all.
so it's this way you can do it once and be done, and
Right,
$25 a pop. That's the signs.
right.
So it would be from May 15th to when?
Well, right now it's stated through September 15th, but we're using the terminology in here, the Saturday before Memorial Day, which obviously we have to put a date on the sign.
Right. Well, I think it's wise to change it then from May 15th to
Yeah,
September 15th.
it's easier, and we
Yeah.
don't have to go through the expense of the signs every year.
Yeah, we changed it before, I guess, because used to get a lot of complaints because people would go there before the season, and Don Paremba would go and ticket them.
The only one thing is the muster is usually falls within the 15th, but we,
We give them an exception.
We
We
give
give
them
the
an
exception,
exception.
The whole
and they,
approval is
we're not changing the end date, we're just
Right.
changing the beginning date.
oh, okay,
Yeah, it's still gonna be September
Okay.
15th, but
all right.
it's just,
So, but 86-12 is for the road ends,
Mhm.
not Cooper's
Okay.
Beach, right? Right.
Yeah. 86-12 is the miscellaneous road ends,
Mhm.
and that has a fixed time period. Saturday before Memorial Day through September 15 or whatever. Cooper's Beach, 86-6, has the same thing, but then it has an exception that you can change those dates by resolution each year. And the reason that exception was put in, however many years ago, was so that you could tie the dates to when you were actually going to have attendance at the Cooper's Beach parking facility. And it wasn't done for the others because you don't have attendance there. So the ability to change the starting date or the ending date by resolution was purely Cooper's.
And why is that an issue now?
Now, I'm not sure what you want
no,
to do now.
it's this one here, I stand correct, it's not just Cooper's, it's all the other roads. The 86-12 is the one that we need to address, because that's the one that we have to replace all the signs at all the beaches.
And what do you want it to say?
Just September, May 15th through September 15th, rather than the Saturday before Memorial Day.
But he said they don't get replaced, it just says Saturday before Memorial Day.
The signs don't say that, they put up
They
on
put
the
the
signs,
date
they
in.
put the
Oh,
date,
they
be it
actually
May
put the date
28th,
every year.
May 27th.
Oh, I got you, okay.
So you want
Peel it off.
86-12, the miscellaneous road ends, to be from May 15 to September 15?
Correct.
Mhm.
That's rather than the Saturday before Memorial Day.
Right.
Now, are you doing anything with 86-6?
No.
So you're gonna leave that the way it is?
Yep.
The Saturday before Memorial Day?
Yeah, because that's tied to the, like you mentioned, to the attendance at the, at Cooper's.
Wait, I'm confused. I thought the ones
You changing everything to May 15th to September
No.
15th?
No. Everything except Cooper's.
So Cooper's says the Saturday before.
Right, and that will leave the same because that's when the attendants start at the beach, the official opening of that beach with lifeguards and attendants. Okay, it's just the other ones that are unattended, we're replacing all these signs.
All right, now, what's our meeting frame? We're at April 11 now. What's the date of our regular meeting in May?
It will be May 9th.
Okay, so if we had the hearing on May 9th and adopted it on May 9th, it would be in place for May 15th. Does that work?
Works for me.
For me too.
Because I don't know that there's enough time to do it for, when's our next meeting?
23rd.
23rd. I don't know if there's time to do it for the 23rd. I'd have to check the timing on the public notice.
Okay.
It wouldn't be.
So if you're okay with May 9, that makes it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll prepare a local law, and then we can introduce it at the next meeting formally and have the hearing on May 9th.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Okay. All right, great. Robert Gibbs retail study. With the assistance of the Southampton Association, we engaged Robert Gibbs and the Gibbs Planning Group to do a retail market analysis for the village, as well as a village grocery impact study. And he had forwarded us that study. A copy of the study is available up here for anybody who doesn't have it. And what we wanted to do tonight is just put it out in front of everybody. It's a lot of information to read and digest. And I know that Eldon Scott was going to come tonight and give us his interpretation of it. He's not able to come. He'll be here at the next meeting. So I wanted to leave it as a discussion item, to put it out, make people aware of it. We should probably actually get this on the internet too.
Okay.
Danielle posted on the village's website.
Should be able to.
Okay, she should be able to do that, or?
Yeah, I just was thinking the electronic copy, but I have one,
Yeah.
so it's fine.
Yeah. And that way it will be available, and so we'll bring it back here at the work session and we'll discuss this. I mean, I don't know if anybody from the public maybe had a chance to look at this before, and or anybody in the board who'd like to make any comments right now. I mean,
I'm going to look at it closely and make some intelligent comment.
well, there's a couple of things here, and I know that, Bill, you had reached out to Bob Gibson just about parking too. And
Actually, I asked Steve, and I think he did contact the village of East Hampton, just, this letter that we received from the owner of the Southampton stationery, and whether or not you should have strict enforcement, and that awful word parking meters wakes people up that have been dead for years, and yet it's an interesting thing to discuss, because Gibbs made some interesting statements at a presentation here many months ago on how beneficial it was to the merchants. So we're just going to try and get some data together on it, and we'll talk about it. I don't want anybody missing the masters or anything over it, because at this point it's just a dream. But the village of East Hampton, of course, has some parking restrictions in, and we'll come to you another day with some kind of an analysis of it, and whether or not it would really help the merchants. Mr. Gibbs said it's an amazing benefit, but that's where it stands at this point. We're just nosing around.
that we are. So anybody else have any comments? If you had a chance to read it, it's there's a lot of data in here, so you have to read it. I read it once.
You have to read it
And
over
you have to
and
read it
over
about-
and over again.
It's the 8-time rule on this. You have to 8 times.
It's neither
before-
here nor there, you know?
So, it's a, yeah. But we'll be back, so we'll have it up on the internet. Encourage people to come back here to talk about this, and see it, and then come back and discuss it, so, okay. All right, the SEC,
Yeah, Kirsten would just like to address if they could possibly hold plein air classes in Agawam Park on Tuesdays, from May 28th to August 27th.
what is it, plain air?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Certain way of painting.
It's a sketching.
Okay.
You paint on an easel,
Oh,
and you paint the outside. You paint what
All
you
of a
see. You paint
all
what
of a
you
sudden,
see.
first thing you
That's the same
British
thing. but,
Spitfires fly over Lake Agawam at 50
That's
feet.
what I pictured.
Is
There's
this
a
in our
group of
book?
retired
Yeah.
Marines wanted to land a helicopter in Agawam Park on the 4th of July, so, you know, I didn't.
Is that a Tuesday?
Yeah. So, yeah, okay. Okay. So we have, so what's to do, Tuesdays, May 28th to August 27th, the plein air class, which would be 10 a.m. to 1 and 2:30 to 5:30. Who's gonna, do we know who's doing these?
Who the
It's,
instructor is? No.
but it's all ran through the
Cultural Center.
Southampton Cultural Center.
And do we know how many people would be in the class?
Just figuring about 10 to 12.
And they won't use the swings.
Yeah,
They won't use the swings, right?
they won't use the swings, and they may.
So, maybe.
I mean, for me, it's going through the cultural center, so that's a
Yeah.
totally different thing than if it were someone who came and personally asked us to run a class there.
Right. Yeah, I don't have any opposition to
think,
this
you
now.
know,
I
I
know
mean,
what
you
it
go-
is.
You go to all these different places, you know, if you go to Nantucket, for instance, people are all over it. Corners and sidewalks and painting of houses, and we don't have that here. And it kind of would be nice, I think, so.
I'll
I think
sketch
if the cultural
monument,
center thinks it's a good
flagpole.
idea, we ought to at
Yeah,
least try it
no.
once. And
I
if
think we
it
could try
doesn't
it.
work, well,
I like going down to Dune Beach and seeing the people painting.
Yeah. They didn't ask. Well, there probably individuals, people came out and,
No, it was a class. I knew people who took it.
Oh, okay.
well, they didn't.
Okay. Okay.
any reason not to do it again?
No.
Let it go.
Okay.
I don't think that many people are interested personally.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Southampton Cultural Center to do the plein air classes in Agawam Park in accordance with the memorandum sent to us dated Tuesday, April 9th.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All
Aye.
right. So we got through that. Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right. Comments from board members here. Trustee Yaz?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody's feedback and anticipated feedback on the budget since we just first announced it tonight. Again, I implore people to pay attention to it. Any budget, this, school budgets, this is where our money goes. One of the more alarming things that I see, which we touched on tonight, was the cost of the mandates, the cost of our state mandated programs for benefits. And just since I can only gauge since I walked in the door in 2.8, and it was just south of 2.7, and taking out the debt service part, for the grants, it's doubled that portion, 2.3 to another, 2.4 million dollars. It hits home. It underscores what the governor's been trying to do, what everybody's been trying to do with state mandates, what people have been trying to get the governor to push more on, is releasing a lot of the obligation on the local governments. This is, when you the other increases, when you take that out, is a 10% increase from since I walked in the door to now. And that's, then you include everything else with inflation and the cost of fuel and supplies. So that's a nominal figure compared to what just benefits the state mandates. So, you know, our hands are tied on stuff like this. I look at it and I wrestle with it going like, my goodness, but as the mayor suggested, going forward, you know, maybe we have to think outside the box. I mean, these are numbers that when people look at it and they go, wow, it happened like today. And the reality is that it took decades for this number to get to this point because of things that were negotiated and accumulated over the past 20-plus years. And as Mr. Deason brought up, going forward, yeah, you know what? In the future, people sitting up where we sit now and residents, it will be a little easier because there have been things implemented on the state level and local level with contract negotiations that will make this a smaller bite. But again, it took 20 years to get to this level. It's going to take 20 years to kind of feel the improvements. In the meantime, we got to figure out a way to live with it, and it's tough. And it's something that we wrestle with here all the time. But I appreciate everybody's input and any questions they have about it. And I implore the public to read this and look and see what exactly you're paying for. So, thank you.
Michael?
As of recent, there's been a sort of feeling, I think, in the general public about our boards that are in the village. And I just want to stress to you that although a board may not make a decision that you feel is correct, though the boards in the village are made up of single individuals, they are volunteering their times. A lot of them spend, I know when I was on the planning board, I'd go to training and I would go to different hearings, and it was all on a volunteer basis. They try to help not just the applicant, but they try to weigh the balance with the community. Sometimes it is very, very difficult to take in a balance of a community and what a area is looking at when an applicant has fulfilled all his requirements on his application. So rather than go after the boards, you as citizens should consider the zoning laws and go after the local law. And if you change the local law, then maybe you can change some of the building. But until that's done, it is very hard for these boards to make a decision based on somebody who has fulfilled all the requirements that they've asked. So, you know, I ask you to have a little better feeling for the boards because they're good.
Okay. Thanks. We'll have a chance for public comment in a minute. So, Trustee McGann.
On a different note, an installation of some new trees went in by the chamber. If you look back, it kind of softens all the work that was done with sidewalks back there. It looks nice. It's not finished. There's going to be some brickwork there. So take a look. They haven't bloomed yet because nothing has, but it really does look nice and it will look beautiful when it's blooming. So that was one of the improvements that we worked on. And with the beautification committee, along with members of the different garden clubs, we're working on a possibility of a change at Bowdoin Square where you put out those big white barricades during the summertime. They're so ugly, and so we're trying to figure out a way to control traffic down there a little bit nicer, so we're working on that. But certainly you'll all be notified on that, you'll all get a chance to see it. But so we have members from VIS who are working on that as well as the Garden Club and beautification. So those are a couple of things that are taking place at the moment.
Bill?
Got a couple of things. I'll go quickly. Tomorrow, I am hoping as many of you as possible can join this trip that we're making to West Hampton Beach to inspect the jetties that are there and so on, and the whole situation of their beaches, which I am astonished at my first trip over there to see what's there. And Aaron Terkunian is going to meet us and so on, and I think you're going over there and will meet us. And I don't know exactly the details of when we leave rather, and what vehicles are available, I know the Southampton Press had two people that were wanted to see this too, although one of them may meet us there and so on. So I don't know exactly what time you want to meet.
We're going to
can
meet
talk about
at Pikes Beach at 3 o'clock.
Right.
With Aram and Mayor
Yeah.
Vigilante.
And how do we find Pikes Beach?
He's going to send me directions.
Oh, you'll?
Yep.
Might be able to,
You just,
some of us.
you just
I'm
get on
gonna
Dune
go if
Road
you
and you
wanna
head
go,
towards,
rather than take all
West
Go over the
Orange.
bridge, and then where's Pikes Beach? To the west?
It's to
First,
the west.
The first one? It's
No,
the
if
big
it's the
public
first
beach?
Well,
to the
that's
west?
the furthermost west beach that he wants to do. He wants to start that and then work his way
Yeah.
east.
Pikes Beach
Okay, well,
is quite a
you'll
ways
let us
down
know.
there.
Is it?
past all the
Okay.
condos.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
because I wanted to call.
Yeah, he's
the
good. Yeah,
newspaper.
he
So
asked him
it's,
for,
yeah, it's all the way at the end.
Okay.
Where
Okay.
Pikes is at, yeah.
Other, we got our first bid. Anyhow, this is going to be worthwhile at least looking at. The next thing is the pistol range. You know, the DEC has closed us down as far as putting any more tree stumps and branches and so on, and we've still got a growing collection of them, and some of them are parked down at Cooper's right now. And the first bid was $39,000. This one group would grind it all up and take it away and so on. I frankly was pleased at the price, but we're trying to get at least another couple of bids on the matter before we present it to you. A year ago, I stirred up a few erstwhile people with the suggestion that the deck down at Dune Beach be increased from its size, which was 12 by 24, and maybe make it 24 by 24, so that sometimes when people are using it for purposes like weddings and so on, that there would be a little more room and conceivably covered for the old people like me who don't like to sit in the sun. But we have a new problem, and I wish you could find time to go down there, because the storms that we've had this year, the entire deck has disappeared. It's now part of the dune system. And as far as even walking to the beach, we no longer, the walkway doesn't make it to the beach, and whatever steps were there. And talking to John Brzezowski this morning, he said something that occurred to me several weeks ago when looking at it, and that is that instead of trying to shovel it out and clear it out, which is going to, the DEC will, God, I know they're a wonderful organization, but sometimes I think they get very, very petty. He said we should raise the existing, rather than try and, because he said if you shovel it out, it's going to come back and you're going to face the problem time and again. And he said we should consider, if you want to just raise the existing deck or expand it a little while you're doing it, but we ought to raise it a couple of feet, which I personally think is a good idea. But if you get a chance, go down there, because we have a problem right now that anybody handicapped is going to have a real dickens of a time and so on with the situation as it has unfolded. Mark, I would like to, just one thing that's come up a couple of times. I know, Charlie, you mentioned many months ago some parking spaces by the hospital that aren't printed in, and I think that we've even talked, Mr. Feinberg's had parking problems by his home, and that we kind of thought it would be a good idea to paint in a couple of parking places so that people don't go halfway past the sign that says no parking here to corner and so on. And also in front of Town Hall, there's a long space that has nothing really painted in, and it just, so maybe you and I could take a look at it, and
Yeah.
We'll try and make a decision on that. And one last thing, I brought it up with Rick, and I think maybe you heard me talk to him many months ago, and we have this, one of our citizens brought up the issue of, the town's had a lot of problems with their police department, and the alarm that this person saw was that a lot of drug arrests were made, that a couple of them, the district attorney has freed a couple of people who had been incarcerated, and it becomes an issue of, if you've got a whole lot of these things and they lead to some very weighty litigation awards, is that something that the town would be responsible for, because it was their police department operating in their jurisdiction that created this problem? Or would it just go into the town budget, because their insurance, I think, is $1 million for a one person, and a total coverage of $2 million, and it's the kind of thing where awards could be staggering. And should the various, the Village, West Hampton, Quogue, maybe we should even talk to them as a group to find out whether or not it's fair to have losses like that spread out amongst the entire town when, in fact, the villages, 4 or 5 of us, provide our own police protection. So it's something really worth looking into, and maybe we can talk about it another day and contact the other villages, because they might be very interested in this too. But it could be a staggering problem if it gets as nasty as it looks as though it could.
We
End of
should actually
speech.
find out where the, I guess, when, the police are insured. Where that falls under their line item on their budget.
I think I even have it in here in my file, but I can show you where they have something like a single instance of $1 million worth of coverage, but a total of $2 million. And a couple of people have been released from jail by the district attorney's office, and I don't know if there's 20 more to follow or 30.
Right.
But it could get real nasty. And then there are some other things that happen in the town that could very well end up in their general budget and end up in us paying for things that would frankly be highly questionable. But we could discuss it amongst ourselves and maybe contact the other incorporated villages and see if they would be interested in joining an investigation of the matter. End of speech.
Okay, all right, great.
I won't even ask you when the orange things are, the traffic calming. Is there any hope that we can kick the can on one of those one of these days?
Yeah, just a update on it. They tell us that they're gonna be here on the 22nd to start all the work with that stuff, but I have a meeting with them on Tuesday. Bill, Highway Department, you're welcome to attend.
Could the Veterans Organization attend with muskets or something if these guys are just jacking us up again?
As
What has been a delay
As
on
my
that?
wife has continuously busted my chops over each one of these corners here, this is not gonna be a pleasant meeting for the guy.
Why has it been so, I mean, it's been pretty nice for a while.
You see them out there working one day and then they're gone
I mean,
for weeks.
Do we have a reason? I mean, I know this is part of the meeting, but have they said anything as to why? Because I hear this all the damn time too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Why the highway's being fixed and they go leave that and come onto our main thoroughfares and the hell with the cones. There's stones and there's piles of crap.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Also,
nasty.
is the town going to landscape out that sump that they put up there
It's
in the
county,
corner?
not the
It's a
town.
county.
That county, are
They
they gonna
have a
landscape it out?
landscape plan for
Okay.
that, yeah.
I mean, so they have no reason as to why hasn't been resumed. I know why it
Oh,
began.
well,
because it was a
yeah.
shovel-ready
I mean,
project, and that
they've
was
given
the-
us, they've given us excuse after excuse, and the excuses are blame different people, they blamed all sorts of stuff, but, we'll know Tuesday, and, but I'm very, very, very unhappy.
Reminder on that, I'd like to-
Sure.
Very unhappy about that, so, but, just heard before the meeting that Ben Hull had passed away,
Yeah.
and Ben Hull, Hull Chevrolet and their family, just a great guy, and he will be missed in this community, and, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and then also, Paul and Pomey was, a 50-year fireman, and had passed away, during the Easter break. And unfortunately, I didn't find out about it until afterwards. And Paul had actually served on our fire committee here in the village and worked for Suffolk County Water Authority for a long time. Was very instrumental in dealing with the fire hydrants in the fire department, and just an absolutely fantastic person. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. And the two big losses for the village there. So, so that after that, just wanted to open it up for a second public comment section. Does anybody from the public like to make? Come on up there, Susan.
Susan Stevenson, Toilsome Lane in the Village. I am concerned that I feel that appointed boards, not elected, that have to do with building development in the village seem to swing always or often in ways that don't protect individual property owners who actually want to live here and are not building something to sell, or I don't know. I have noticed and have been upset over the years, but this last year, I don't know, the Volk decision was very unsettling to me because we do have a law that I realized there were errors, but it is enforceable, and I felt that it wasn't enforced, and that it created a situation that's ugly and unpleasant, and that there was a lot of discussion about who was going to live in the house and all those things that come up. And in the end, the neighborhood is left with something that really isn't, I think, appropriate. And there have been many examples since I've lived here, and I've come and sat through lots of meetings and been disappointed. But I don't feel there is any trustee who takes it upon themselves to actually look at perhaps tightening the zoning in residential or making enforcement a more careful review of plans, just a more careful look at what's going on, because it's going on quickly. Houses are bigger, more houses are empty, which I find sad. But when you build those big things, people who have another place to live usually buy them. So that I feel it's changed our community, and it continues to do so, and that the neighborhood quality of our community is slowly declining. And looking at Mr. Gibbs' study, it doesn't look like our community is going to get all that much bigger between now and 2017 on his report. So that what's happened is we've just allowed larger buildings on small pieces of land in the village proper, the neighborhoods, and I think that should be considered something that might be good to protect, or protect better than it has been. That's all.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Of course.
Horace Bliss, village resident. Bill Hattrick raised some interesting issues here. I went to a public hearing with respect to Southampton Town's proposal to replenish some of the beachfront properties east of Southampton Village. And the town of Southampton is going to pay for some portion of the replenishment. And I asked Supervisor Thornholst whether the taxpayers in the village of Southampton will be paying for some of that beach replenishment. She said yes. I said, well, if the village of Southampton decided to replenish our beaches here, do you think we can get the town of Southampton to contribute to our replenishment? She said no. And that's the last I've heard about it. I didn't follow up on it. I'm a little concerned, and Bill raised a very interesting point here. Do we have a forensic ability to determine what goes into that portions of their budgets that is going to be paid for by Southampton Village residents? Recognize we have our own court, we have our own building department, we have our own road, we have our own police department. It goes on and on and on and on. And are we seeing any leakage of those expenses so that we are paying for our own, shall we say, maintenance, and then contributing to Southampton Town? And how to do that, I don't know. I guess you have to go in there and sit down with their people and see what they're putting in there. And I don't know if anybody pays any attention to that. Or do we just accept the, I mean, does the village go and talk to Mr. Marchese, I guess his name, and say, what are you putting into our costs that should be town costs versus village costs? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any other public comment? Okay. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personal matters involving village employees.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.